Well, hello, Brax. How are you today?
Good. Welcome to the second episode of Two MFers. I am Brax Night Fighter, and joining me is Rim. Rim, how we doing tonight?
Doing fantastic. Thank you for asking.
All right. So we we're gonna start our second episode here, and we're gonna talk a little bit about territory battles and why we feel like that's where your guild needs to focus. And kind of going back to our first episode, the kind of guild centric philosophy that we have is how a player can impact their guild the most. And we feel like by tackling territory battles, that is how you're going to help your guild the most and help yourself in the long run as well. Rem, do you agree with that?
No, absolutely. I believe that territory battles are the best rewards that every guild's going to get. We can all talk about territory wars, which are very marginal between winning and losing. Then you look at your raids, for sure, those are very important. By the time you're engaging territory battles, though, that is where the best rewards come from. And I believe you have a breakdown for that, don't you, Brex?
I do. And I sort of want to give a little asterisk here. So obviously different stages of the game are going to have different priorities. So, it's not always going to make sense for you. But if we're just looking and breaking down the reward comparison here, when we're looking at territory war, um, if you're a 225 million guild and you get first place, you're looking at 650 get twos and 500 get ones, like 1900 guild store, three zetas. And then you look at second place, and that's at that same 225. You're looking at 550 get two. You're looking at 425 get one, 1625 guild store, two zetas. So really, there's not a whole lot of difference there between first and second place. But then when you start getting into territory battle, looking at Hoth, if at 31 stars, which is somewhere in the middle there, we're looking at 150 crystals, 600 get one, 4,900 guild store, plus all the other little packages and everything that you get there. And then in Geo, when we're looking at Dark Side Geo, you're looking at 450 crystals, 4,600 get one, 4,450 get two, and Light Side is pretty comparable. You get a little more get one, 5,050 get one and 5,050 get two. So even Light Side, and that's at 16 stars. So both the Light Side and the Dark Side at 16 stars. You can see how much of better rewards you're getting than just compared to territory war. If we dive into raids, kind of to the point that Rim made there, obviously, especially if you're at a lower point in your progression as a guild, like you're going to need the shards that you're going to get from that. But so if you need Treya, if you need a General Kenobi, then obviously it's going to make sense for you to make that a priority. But the rewards themselves, if you get fifth place in the heroic Sith raid, you're looking at 600 get one, you're looking at 2,275 guild store, and then obviously you get your Treya shards and some 12 mod slicing materials and so on. Then looking at Arena and Grand Arena, unless you're getting first place, your rewards aren't real great. At first place, you're looking at 900 squad arena tokens and 500 crystals. But then if you're at 101 to 200, you're only looking at like 600 squad arena tokens and 75 crystals. And in Grand Arena, if you're a Carbonite, between 1 and 100, you're looking at 1,000 championship tokens and 200 credits. And if you're Kyber in your first, you're looking at 5,500 of the championship tokens and 1.8 million credits. And then there's obviously various rewards for the feats and everything like that. But if you're just looking at all of this from a pure reward standpoint, I feel like that territory battles are going to give you the biggest bang for your buck. And I know that was a lot of numbers all at once there, but I think maybe you can see my point in that.
Well, I think from a larger perspective, let's be honest. There are only 50 people in every shard that have any chance of really gaining rewards from their arena shard. We can all agree.
Yeah.
As the game is currently constructed, if you can finish in the top 50 in arena every day, that is the to improve. Problem, though, is how many of us have the time to do that? I think the average player doesn't. So when you start looking at this game as being something that the average player can enjoy and receive rewards from, tournament battles have to be the best, because even with the numbers that you threw down there, it's quite obvious that the best rewards you will get are through tournament battles.
Absolutely. And I think there's some other things that make it better for the guild as a whole as well. If you're just comparing territory battles and territory war, you can't control matchmaking with territory war. CG's matchmaking analytics are bad a lot of times, and obviously some guilds probably benefit from this, but I know for us, kind of an older guild, a lot of free-to-play players, so we kind of have some deeper rosters, which actually works against us, because if you're going up against somebody that has comparable GP, they may have more of a streamlined like meta roster, and it just puts us at a huge disadvantage. And so, we kind of have some tunes that actually are carrying a little extra weight that boost our GP, but maybe aren't as competitive as it would be.
Now that's the reality of being a guild such as us, and you're exactly right. TW for the average guild, unless you're spending money in this game, TW is always going to be a frustrating game mode. You're not going to traditionally find yourself succeeding, and you can't even build teams that you really enjoy playing. You're forced to have to always play the meta. What I like about TB is, yes, there are teams you have to build in order to be successful, but you can also build that secondary team and still have an effect, or at the very least, you're still able to productively help the guild.
And I think what we've, at least in our personal experience, I've found is that by focusing on TB has actually helped us in other aspects of the game. So building those TB teams and kind of focusing on those has actually helped our territory wars, because a lot of those same teams we're able to use in territory wars. Even like Grand Arena, if you think about that, like if you're developing that TB team, you're going to have some great Grand Arena teams. So I feel like investing that time and effort and everything into building that TB team is going to help you in probably almost all the other aspects of the game as well.
And it's one of the areas that I think CG has done moderately well at. Most the TB teams that are required, if you look at even Hoth or Geonosius, TB battles are useful in other areas of the game. If you're looking at Hoth, you have to build a bounty hunter team. Well, great. Your bounty hunter team gets you Chewbacca. Your bounty hunter team is a strong, reasonably strong team, especially in the early days of GAC. And you start looking at Geo. Anyone who disrespects uh, Geonosians is an idiot. They're a great, solid team that's going to net you a lot of rewards, but then they're also really good in almost every other aspect of the game. So it's worth investing in those teams. General Grievous, it took them a while, but they've rebuilt General Grievous and his team to being a team that on defense, when you see one, you're like, all right, this is meta time. You're going to have to drop something significant at them.
Yeah. And I think to your point too is like you're gonna have to build them because if you want Watt, if you want Cam, if you want those shards, like you're gonna have to invest in those teams. So why not really invest in it and make them good and make them work for you?
So one of the things we talked about the last episode that I got a little backlash from was Echobot. And so I apologize. I want to very, very succinctly say that I think Echobot is a fantastic tool and guilds should use it. Where I was saying to be cautionary is that Echobot takes a lot of guild leaders and guild officers need to look at that as a tool, not as a rule. It takes either a lot of introspection and time from guild leaders to really understand how to manage that tool and make sure that people are not losing tunes that they really need, or players managing themselves underneath that tool, understanding that, okay, this isn't the right, I need this tune if I'm going to be really successful in engaging your officers. But Echobot is a fantastic tool. I plan on using it in Korriban. I don't want to say anything negative about it, just saying that I do believe in the player having a little bit of options on managing their own roster.
And I feel like that is something that we've kind of maybe prided ourselves a little bit in Mustafar, is that we try to treat our players as adults and allow them to make their own decisions for their roster, and we try not to micromanage every aspect of it. And so I think just helping to develop that culture where people recognize, like, hey, I can donate my one of my tunes into the platoon, but maybe I need to hold that back so I can do my combat mission, or vice versa. Hey, maybe you have a very deep roster and you can donate your Darth Revan, where you have other teams behind that where you may have somebody that isn't as high as a GP as you, and they need that Darth Revan to be able to compete. So it's sort of like recognizing and making those sacrifices that need to be made to help the guild in the long run.
That is exactly my point, which is why I said it either comes down to guild officers sifting through everyone's rosters and making those minor adjustments to Echobot, or trusting their guild to let them know the adjustments that they need to make to Echobot. It's it's something that we can look into as in Mustafar is maybe building that sort of concept into our own platooning environment.
Right.
There's always ways every guild can improve. So now I'm going to talk about you own this. You brought it up, the idea of sacrifice. Platooning is the biggest sacrifice. It is painful. We talked about this in the first episode. But I would say for new guilds, the biggest sacrifice, but it's one everyone needs to make, is as you're building, looking at, okay, what is my guild creating? What toon can I farm on the side that is purely for platooning's sake? No one wants to be the guy who farms that worthless toon. But that one toon, and we can go through the numbers, we all know there are a lot of very underperforming Jedi that are requested in Hoth, also in Geo, that are not needed. That they're never going to benefit you. But that's something that you should always be aware of, that farming that side toon just for the benefit of the guild is going to benefit you.
Yeah. So the Visas Mars and the Aura Sings and those type of tunes.
Actually, Aura Singh has a place in the game now. Amazingly enough, she's a great bounty hunter lead if you're running Mandalorian. But not Aura Singh. Yeah, Aura Singh. Visa Smart though. Visa Smart should be a great character. I think she's going to be required for something soon. But as of now, has no place in the game, yet she's going to be needed for platoon. Somebody has to farm her. Somebody has to make that sacrifice. I recommend that everyone in a guild figure their side farm. Somebody that just benefits the guild, benefits your TB, farm them up on the side, nothing prioritized, but that's your side farm, just to help the guild.
I just mentioned those two because I have both of them. So
Yes, I know.
Visa's problem is that she doesn't have any tags.
Yeah, that's always been her flaw. Like I said, I think at some point she's going to be a great team because she has a really significant kit. But there are a lot of other tunes out there that you need for platoons that, oh my god, you don't see any possibility of them becoming worthwhile anytime in the near future.
Absolutely. Well, I think what we're sort of kind of summarizing here with our focus on territory battles is that is you have to develop a culture. You have to have a culture where people will make sacrifices when need be. They will do what they need to do to get the territory battles completed. And it's going to help the guild grow. It's going to help the individuals grow. It's going to help everybody in different aspects of the game. And really, all of that goes and comes down to guild leadership and decisions that are made on behalf of the whole entire guild. And I think maybe that will set us up for our next episode, unless you have other things to add there, Rem.
I just want to add on to what you said. I completely agree that TB is the top structure of decision making for guilds. If your guild officers are not prioritizing territory battles and looking at that and how it flows downhill, not And I'm not saying if they're not prioritizing, but basically, if you're prioritizing as a guild territory battles, then that should flow downhill into TW, into your guild events, into everything else that you're doing, which I believe was really the idea of this episode. Was TB is the top level, and then from there everything flows down. And we're going to talk about in the future how that affects your tournament wars, how that affects your guild events, how that affects every part of an individual roster.
Yeah, and I don't think we're trying to depreciate the value of raids or territory war or grand arena or arena, but I just feel like that by focusing on territory battles and building those teams and everything, that you're going to not only get better rewards, but you're going to impact each of those areas. And like you said, it's the top, and it'll trickle down to all the other ones.
It's a successful trickle down theory.
All right. Well, I think we covered everything that we wanted to cover as far as TB goes, and that'll kind of set us up for our next episode, and we will probably touch on some guild leadership and some of these other aspects of the game and how we can kind of put this all together and make it work.
Sounds like a great time. Looking forward to it.
All right. All right. Well, thank you everybody for listening in, and we will get back at you very soon.
Good night, Brax.
Night.